The residents of Banana Island had seen many things. They had seen politicians weep after losing elections. They had seen musicians fight over women in the streets. But they had never seen Chief Felix, the quiet billionaire who owned half of Lagos Island, rolling in the mud. He wasn't mad. He wasn't drunk. He was on his knees in the heavy October rain, holding an umbrella over a girl who smelled like yesterday's garbage. "Forgive us," he whispered, his voice trembling like a generator running out of fuel. "The world is blind, but tonight we will make them see." This happened in Lagos, the city where dreams go to die or fly. Specifically, it started in the golden cage known as Victoria Island. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind when the humidity hugs you like a jealous lover. The traffic on Ozomba Madiwe was a red river of tail lights. You could hear the symphony of the city, the aggressive honking of danfo drivers, the hum of massive diesel generators powering the high-rises, and the distant beat of amapiano coming from the clubs that never sleep. In this part of town, the air smelled expensive. It smelt of Prada perfume, leather car seats, and grilled suya. It was a world of tinted windows and high gates, where security guards checked your shoes before they checked your ID. Sarah was 23, but her eyes looked 50. A first-class graduate of mass communication who now communicated only with dirty plates and angry customers. She wore a uniform that was 2 sizes too big, and her shoes were held together by prayer and super glue. She was the invincible machinery that kept the city running, the waitress, the cleaner, the nobody. Then there was Cynthia. Cynthia was the moment, an influencer with 500,000 followers who hung on her every contour. She drove a 2024 G-Wagon with a custom plate that read Queen C. Her skin glowed with the kind of radiance that cost $3,000 a month. She didn't walk, she floated on a cloud of entitlement. To Cynthia, people like Sarah weren't humans. They were background noise, glitches in her perfect aesthetic. The collision didn't happen with a bang. It happened with a notification. Hey, sorry to interrupt your listening for just a moment. If this story is speaking to you so far, I'd be really grateful if you'd subscribe and support the channel. It helps me keep creating more stories like this for you. Thank you. Sarah was wiping table 4 at the Ivory, the most exclusive restaurant on the island. Her phone, an old Android with a screen cracked like a spider web, buzzed in her pocket. It was a text from her mother's doctor. "Dialysis needed urgently. Deposit 150K by Friday or we discharge her." Sarah froze. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. "Excuse me?" A sharp voice cut through her panic. "Are you going to stay at space or are you going to take my order?" Sarah looked up. Cynthia was sitting there, ring light set up on the table, live streaming to her fans. She looked at Sarah with a mixture of boredom and disgust. I'm sorry, ma," Sarah stammered. "Don't call me ma, it makes me feel old. And fix your wig, it looks like a bird's nest." The comment was live. 5,000 people watched. Emojis of laughing faces flooded the screen. She didn't know it yet, but the storm had just made landfall. The Ivory restaurant was cold, kept at a freezing temperature to remind patrons they could afford air conditioning. It was lunch hour. The clinking of silverware on china sounded like polite warfare. Cynthia was seated with her squad, 3 other women who looked like photocopies of each other. They were laughing about a trip to Dubai, their voices loud enough to dominate the room. Sarah approached with a tray. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, but from hunger. She hadn't eaten since yesterday so she could save transport fare to the hospital. She placed a glass of strawberry smoothie on the table. Condensation dripped from the glass. "Wait," Cynthia said, holding up a manicured hand. She sniffed the air dramatically. "Do you guys smell that?" Her friends giggled. "Smell what, babe?" "It smells like stagnation," Cynthia said, her eyes locking onto Sarah. "Like wet dog and poverty." Sarah flinched as if she'd been slapped. "I'm sorry?" "Don't talk back to me," Cynthia snapped. "I ordered this smoothie with almond milk. Does this look like almond milk to you?" "It is almond milk, ma. I checked the other myself." "So you're calling me a liar?" Cynthia's voice rose, perfectly pitched for the drama. She grabbed the cold glass. Before Sarah could blink, the pink liquid was airborne. It splashed across Sarah's white uniform, staining the chest and stomach like a fresh wound. The cold shock made Sarah gasp. The sticky liquid dripped down her skirt to her worn-out shoes. "Oops," Cynthia said, deadpan. "My hand slipped. Just like your standards." Sarah stood frozen. The cold liquid seeped through to her skin. Her chest felt like Lagos traffic, everything jammed tight. "Don't cry," she told herself. "If you cry, they win. If you cry, you lose the job. If you lose the job, Mama dies." She swallowed the lump in her throat. It tasted like bitter leaf. She bowed her head slightly. The restaurant went silent. A banker at the next table looked down at his jollof rice, pretending to text. The manager, Mr. Tunde, watched from the corner, wiping sweat from his forehead. He knew Cynthia spent 2 million naira a month here. He knew Sarah earned 40,000 naira. The math was simple. Waiters huddled by the kitchen door. Chai, that girl is wicked though. But none of them moved. They had families to feed. Cynthia's phone was recording. "Guys, can you believe the service here? #bad vibes," she said to her camera, pivoting the lens to show Sarah's stained uniform. Sarah turned and walked toward the kitchen. Her shoes squeaked on the marble floor. Every squeak sounded like an apology she didn't owe. She felt the eyes of the room on her back. She felt the shame burning her ears. Outside the kitchen door, she leaned against the cool wall. She tried to wipe the stain, but it only spread, turning from pink to a dirty red. She checked her phone. Battery low. No new messages. Just the silence of a life falling apart. 20 minutes later, in the manager's office, Mr. Tunde sat behind his mahogany desk. He wouldn't look Sarah in the eye. Outside, in the main dining area, Cynthia hadn't left. She was demanding to see the manager. She wanted justice for the assault of having the wrong milk. "The customer is always right, Sarah," Mr. Tunde said, his voice small. "But she threw the drink on me, sir. I didn't do anything." "It doesn't matter what you did. It matters who she is. She's threatening to blast us on Instagram. Do you know how many followers she has?" The door swung open. Cynthia marched in. Phone held high. She was live. "So here we are with the manager," she narrated to her audience. "Mr. Tunde, tell my followers what you're going to do about this incompetent staff who ruined my lunch." Mr. Tunde stood up, straightening his tie. He looked at the camera, then at Sarah. "Sarah," he said loud enough for the microphone to pick up, "you are relieved of your duties, effective immediately." "Fired?" Cynthia asked, zooming in on Sarah's face. "Say the word, Mr. Tunde." "You are fired, Sarah. Please hand over your badge." The room spun. Sarah's hands trembled as she unpinned the plastic name tag from her stained uniform. Sarah. The name felt like it belonged to someone else now. Someone who had a salary. She placed the badge on the desk. Her fingers lingered on it for a second. It was her mother's dialysis money. It was her rent. It was her food. Now it was just plastic. "Finally," Cynthia cheered. "Justice served. Heart emojis in the chat, guys." Mr. Tunde looked at the floor. He knew he was a coward, but cowards survived in this city. Heroes starved. Through the glass wall of the office, the other staff watched. A busboy shook his head slowly. A cleaner made the sign of the cross. Sarah walked out of the restaurant through the back door. The alleyway smelled of rotting vegetables and exhaust fumes. She sat on a crate near the generator. The noise was deafening, drowning out the sound of her own ragged breathing. She checked her account balance. 3,500 naira. She had no job. She had a stained uniform. And she had a sick mother waiting for a miracle. Sarah got home late. Home was a face me, I face you room in Obalende. A chaotic contrast to the sterile luxury of Victoria Island. It was raining lightly. The gutters were overflowing, carrying the debris of the city toward the lagoon. Her landlord, Papa Emeka, was waiting by her door. He was a man whose belly entered the room 5 seconds before he did. "Sarah," he barked, chewing on a toothpick. "I saw the video." Sarah's blood ran cold. "What video, Papa? Don't play dumb with me. My daughter showed me. The one where you insulted that big madam. The one where you were disgraced. It wasn't my fault. I don't care whose fault it is. He spat the toothpick out. I run a respectable compound. I don't want trouble. If big people are fighting you, they will come here. They will bring police. I don't want police in my house. He pointed a thick finger at her door. My nephew is coming from the village tomorrow. He needs a room. You have until morning to pack. Morning? Papa, please. I paid rent until the end of the month. Take your balance. He threw a wad of crumpled naira notes at her chest. They fluttered to the muddy ground. Pack your load. If I meet you here by 8 a.m., I will burn your things. Sarah knelt in the mud to pick up the money. 1,000, 2,000. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. She didn't argue. You don't argue with a landlord in Lagos when you have no power. She went into her room. It smelled of damp and despair. She looked at the peeling paint. Even this hellhole was being taken from her. Neighbors peeked out from behind their curtains. Mama Chichi, who sold roasted corn, shook her head. This life no balance, she muttered. But she didn't offer Sarah a room. She had 6 children in one room herself. The compound dog barked at Sarah, sensing her weakness. Sarah packed her life into 2 Ghana must-go bags. Her clothes, her certificate, her mother's old Bible. She sat on her mattress staring at the wall until sunrise. She didn't sleep. Sleep was a luxury for people who knew where they would wake up. The next morning, Sarah dragged her bags to the general hospital. The smell of antiseptic and sickness hung heavy. Her mother, Mrs. Okeke, was lying on a gurney in the hallway. There were no beds. She looked small, shrunken by the kidney disease that was eating her alive. Sarah approached the nurse station. "Nurse, please, is the doctor coming?" The nurse didn't look up from her ledger. "Did you pay the deposit?" "I have some of it, please. Just start the treatment. I will bring the rest." The nurse finally looked up. She squinted. "Wait, aren't you the smoothie girl?" Sarah froze. The video. It had traveled everywhere. The nurse laughed, a dry, cynical sound. "Ha! So you want to use the money you don't have to treat your mother while you are busy fighting celebrities? Look, my dear, this is not a charity home. No payment, no dialysis." "She will die. People die every day," she said, closing the book. "Move your mother from the hallway. You are blocking the path for paying patients." Sarah walked back to her mother. Mrs. Okeke was asleep, her breathing shallow. Sarah took her mother's cold hand. She rubbed it against her cheek. Tears finally leaked out, hot and fast. "God," she prayed silently, "if you are there, pick up the call." A woman sitting on the floor with a sick child watched them. She reached into her wrapper and pulled out a crumpled 500 naira note. She pressed it into Sarah's hand. "It is not much," the woman whispered. "Buy water." It was the first act of kindness Sarah had seen in days. It hurt more than the cruelty. Sarah wheeled her mother out of the ward. They sat on a bench outside the hospital gate. Cars rushed past. Life went on. Sarah opened her bag and took out a gala sausage roll. She broke it in half. "Mama," she whispered, waking the sleeping woman. "Time to eat." 3 days later, Sarah was technically homeless. She slept in an unfinished building near the lagoon, paying the security guard 200 naira a night to look the other way. She spent her days looking for work and hawking gala in traffic to buy food for her mother, whom she had temporarily lodged with a distant aunt who demanded daily payments. Every evening, she sat near the back of the Ivory restaurant, near the dumpster, to rest. Sitting there, always in the same spot, was a beggar. He was an old man with matted grey hair and a beard that looked like steel wool. He wore layers of rags that smelled of earth. He never spoke. He just sat staring at the passing cars with eyes that seemed too sharp for a madman. It was raining again. Sarah was huddled under the small awning of a shop, eating a puff-puff she hadn't sold. She saw the beggar sitting in the rain. He was shivering. Sarah looked at her puff-puff. It was her dinner. Her stomach growled, a feral animal demanding to be fed. She looked at the old man. Without a word, she walked over. She broke the puff-puff in two. She gave him the bigger half. "Take," she said softly. "It's warm." The beggar looked at the food, then he looked at her. For a second, the madness in his eyes cleared. He nodded once, a king acknowledging a gift. She did this every day for a week. Sometimes it was half a gala. Sometimes it was just water. She talked to him too. "They fired me, Baba," she told him one night. "But it's okay. God sees. That lady, Cynthia, she's wicked, but maybe she's hurting too. Only hurting people hurt people like that." The beggar never answered. He just ate and watched and listened. A week later, Sarah's phone buzzed. A DM on Instagram. "Hello, Sarah. We saw your story. We are a luxury cleaning service. We want to hire you. Come to plot 4, Lekki Phase 1, 10 a.m. Hope, that dangerous drug, flooded Sarah's veins. She washed her only good shirt in the lagoon water. She ironed it by putting it under her mattress. She used her last 500 naira for transport. She arrived at the address. It was a stunning mansion. White pillars, gold gates. She rang the bell. The gate slid open. Standing in the driveway wasn't a cleaning manager. It was Cynthia. And she wasn't alone. She had a camera crew. "She actually came," Cynthia shrieked, laughing. Sarah stopped. "You? Welcome to the pilot episode of Pranked by Queen C," Cynthia announced to the cameras. "We wanted to see if the desperate would do anything for money." She held out a mop. "We don't have a job for you, but my G-Wagon is dirty. If you wash it, I'll give you 5,000 naira. 5,000. It could buy her mother's medicine for 2 days. Sarah looked at the G-Wagon. She looked at the camera. She looked at Cynthia's cruel, perfect smile. She took the mop. The camera crew looked uncomfortable. "Is this okay?" a cameraman muttered. "Keep rolling," Cynthia snapped. "This is content." Passers-by stopped to watch through the gate. "Is that not the influencer? Who is the slave girl washing her car?" Sarah washed the car. She scrubbed the tires. She polished the hood. When she was done, soaked and exhausted, she held out her hand. Cynthia threw the money on the wet ground. "Pick it up and smile for the camera." Sarah picked up the wet notes. She didn't smile. She just walked away, leaving wet footprints on the pristine driveway. Sunday came and Sarah went to the mega church on the island. She needed hope. She sat in the overflow section outside on a plastic chair. Inside, the air conditioning was blasting. The choir was singing about prosperity. It was testimony time. Cynthia walked up to the altar. She was wearing a white lace dress that cost more than Sarah's entire life earnings. "Praise the Lord!" Cynthia shouted. "Hallelujah!" the congregation roared. "God has been faithful. I just hit 1 million followers. And to thank God, I am donating 5 million naira to the building fund." The church erupted. The pastor, a man in a shiny blue suit, ran to embrace her. "Daughter of Zion," he proclaimed. Sarah, overcome by the spirit, or perhaps just grief, stood up in the back. She walked toward the altar, tears streaming. She just wanted to pray at the front. She wanted to ask God why he gave millions to the wicked and hunger to the faithful. As she reached the aisle, an usher blocked her. "Sister, please go back," the usher whispered aggressively. "You are disturbing the service." "I just want to pray," Sarah wept. Cynthia saw her. She leaned into the microphone. "Pastor, we should pray for the mental health of the less privileged. Some people are possessed by spirits of jealousy." The congregation turned, thousands of eyes. "Security," the pastor said gently but firmly. "Please escort the sister out so she can receive counseling." 2 burly men in suits grabbed Sarah's arms. She didn't fight. She went limp. As they dragged her out, she locked eyes with Cynthia. Cynthia winked. "Witchcraft is real, oh," a woman in the front row whispered. "Poor thing, she looks mad," another said. The organist played a loud chord to drown out the scene. They threw her out the back gate. Sarah sat on the curb, the sound of worship music muffled by the heavy walls. She looked at the sky. It was blue,
indifferent, vast. "Are you there?" she whispered. "Or are you their God only?" It was the lowest point. 2 weeks later, Sarah's mother was critical. The aunt had kicked Mrs. Okeke out. They were sleeping in a shelter. Sarah was hawking gala in the go-slow on the Lekki Ikoyi Bridge. The sun was hot enough to fry an egg on the asphalt. Traffic was standstill. A black G-Wagon with the plate Queen C was stuck in the lane next to the railing where Sarah stood. Sarah didn't notice the car. She was tapping on windows. "Bye gala, called Lakasera." The tinted window of the G-Wagon rolled down. Cold AC air rushed out, hitting Sarah's sweaty face. Cynthia sat there wearing oversized Gucci sunglasses. "Well, well," Cynthia said. "From waitress to beggar, the trajectory is consistent." "Please, madam," Sarah said, exhaustion making her voice flat. "Buy gala." "I don't eat road food. It's full of germs." Cynthia looked at Sarah up and down. "Just like you." She cleared her throat, and then, shockingly, she spat. The spittle landed on Sarah's worn-out slippers. Sarah looked at the spit. It bubbled slightly on the hot plastic of her shoe. She felt a scream building in her chest, a volcano of rage. But she looked at the gala in her tray. If she dropped it, she owed the supplier money. She carefully wiped her shoe on the grass verge. A driver in a Toyota Camry next to them saw it. He honked his horn angrily. "Madam, fear God!" he shouted at Cynthia. Cynthia just rolled up her window. The tinted glass became a mirror reflecting Sarah's broken silhouette. Sarah sold nothing else that day. She walked back to the shelter, the image of the spit burning in her mind. She had reached the bottom of the well. There was no dignity left to take. The Women of Influence Awards, the biggest night in Lagos society. It was held at the Echo Hotel Convention Center. Tickets were 500,000 naira per table. Sarah wasn't a guest. She was outside, in the rain, hawking umbrellas to the drivers dropping off the elite. Cynthia arrived in a white Rolls Royce. She stepped out, flashing smiles for the paparazzi. She was nominated for Philanthropist of the Year. She saw Sarah standing by the entrance, soaked, holding a cheap umbrella. Cynthia stopped the red carpet procession. She beckoned Sarah over. "Come here," she commanded. Sarah approached, thinking maybe, just maybe, she wanted to buy an umbrella. Cynthia turned to the photographers. "Take a picture of this," she said, wrapping a reluctant arm around Sarah's wet shoulder, careful not to let her dress touch Sarah's rags. "This is why I do what I do," Cynthia told the press, "to help the helpless. I am dedicating my award tonight to... What is your name again?" "Sarah." "To Sarah and all the broken girls like her." She pulled a 1,000 naira note from her purse and tucked it into Sarah's wet shirt pocket. "Go buy soap, darling." The camera flashes blinded her. Sarah felt like a prop in a horror movie. She stood there as Cynthia glided into the hall. The 1,000 naira note burned against her chest. The paparazzi checked their shots. "Great lighting," one said. "Very touching." They didn't see the human. They saw the content. Sarah turned to leave. She was done. She would take her mother and go back to the village. Lagos had won. She walked toward the bus stop, and that was when she saw the mute beggar. He was standing by a black limousine. He wasn't wearing rags. He was wearing a tuxedo. He looked at Sarah. "Sarah," he said. His voice was deep, rich, and steady. Sarah dropped her tray of umbrellas. "Baba, you can speak?" "I can do more than speak," he said. He opened the door of the limousine. "Get in, we are late for the awards." Sarah stood rooted to the spot. The rain washed over her, but she didn't feel it. "Who are you?" she whispered. "I am Chief Felix," the man said. owner of the ivory, owner of the estate, and the man you fed when you had nothing. He gestured to the car. Get in. My stylists are waiting in the back seat. Inside the limo, it was a different universe. Soft leather, champagne on ice. Two women were waiting with a dress, a shimmering gold gown that looked like liquid sunlight. We have 20 minutes, Chief Felix said as the driver navigated the traffic. Wash your face. Change. Why? Sarah asked as her hands trembled as she touched the silk. Why me? Because, Felix said, looking out of the window at the rainy city, I spent 3 months pretending to be a beggar. Hundreds of people passed me. Rich people, pastors, influencers. They spat on me. They kicked me. He turned to her. His eyes were fierce. You were the only one who saw me. You were starving, yet you fed me. You were homeless, yet you asked if I was cold. He handed Sarah a tablet. On the screen was a video feed of the award ceremony.
I have cameras everywhere, Sarah. The restaurants, the estates, the streets. I have seen everything Cynthia did to you. And tonight, everyone else will see it too. The stylists walked fast. They cleaned her face, they pinned her hair, they slipped the gold dress over her tired frame. When Sarah looked in the mirror, she didn't recognize herself. The girl with the stained uniform was gone. A warrior queen stared back. My mother, Sarah started, is currently being transferred to the VIP wing of St. Nicholas Hospital. Doctors are with her. She is stable. Sarah choked back a sob. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Felix smiled, a cold, dangerous smile. Save your thanks for after the show. The car stopped. They were at the back entrance of the convention center. Are you ready? Felix asked. Sarah took a deep breath. She thought of the smoothie, the firing, the spit. I am ready. The convention center was a sea of diamonds and eagles. The air smelt of expensive perfume and hypocrisy. On stage, the host announced the main category. And now, for the Woman of Influence Award, please welcome the nominee, Cynthia. The crowd erupted. Cynthia walked onto the stage waving like royalty. She took the microphone. She looked radiant, fake tears shimmering in her eyes. Oh, wow, she gushed. I am so humbled. You know, helping the poor isn't just a duty. It's a calling. Just tonight, I met a homeless girl. Suddenly, the massive LED screen behind her flickered. The logo of the awards vanished. Static filled the screen. A loud screeching noise made the audience cover their ears. Then, a video started playing. It was the CCTV footage from the ivory. High definition, clear audio. First, Cynthia throwing the smoothie. The sound of the splash echoed in the silent hall. It smells like poverty. Her voice rang out amplified by the massive speakers. The audience gasped. Then came the firing. Cynthia laughing as Sarah handed over her badge. Justice served. Heart emojis. Murmur started rippling through the crowd. Then the G-Wagon driveway. Sarah scrubbing the tires. Cynthia throwing the money in the mud. Is that her? Someone shouted. Finally, the traffic spit. The zoom was unforgiving. It showed the spit leaving Cynthia's mouth and landing on the shoe. The room went dead silent. The kind of silence that precedes an execution. On stage, Cynthia froze. She looked at the screen, then at the tech booth. Turn it off! Someone hacked the screen. Turn it off! It is not a hack. A booming voice came from the back of the hall. The spotlight swung around. Walking down the center aisle was Chief Felix, and on his arm, in a gold dress that caught every light in the room, was Sarah.
The crowd parted. They recognized the chief, the recluse billionaire everyone feared. But they stared at the girl. "That's her," a woman whispered. "The girl in the video."
They reached the stage. Chief Felix took the stairs 2 at a time. He walked up to the podium and took the microphone from a trembling Cynthia. "Ladies and gentlemen," Felix said calmly, "you all know me as the owner of the chain of restaurants this young lady frequents." He pointed at Cynthia. "And the estate where she lives." He turned to the screen. "And for the last 3 months, I have been the mute beggar sitting behind my own restaurant." Gasps filled the room. Cynthia's face went the color of ash. "I was looking for character," Felix continued. "I found cruelty in the palace, and I found royalty in the gutter." He turned to Cynthia. "Cynthia, you are hereby disqualified." He looked at his phone. "Also, I just sent an email to your landlord, who happens to be my property manager. You have 24 hours to vacate my estate." Cynthia grabbed the mic stand. "You can't do this. Do you know who I am?" "I know exactly who you are," Felix said coldly. "You are poor, not in money, but in spirit, and now everyone knows." Cynthia looked at the crowd. She expected support. She expected her fans. Instead, she saw phones, hundreds of them, recording. She heard the boos starting, low at first, then a roar. "Shame! Shame! Shame!" She dropped her purse. She tried to run off stage, but her heel broke. She stumbled, falling to her knees, the exact same position she had forced Sarah into so many times. Nobody helped her up. The host, recovering his wits, signaled security. "Please escort the trespasser out." As 2 guards dragged the screaming Cynthia away, the screen changed one last time. It showed a live feed of social media. #cancel Cynthia was trending #1 worldwide. #Sarah's story was #2. Chief Felix turned to Sarah. He handed her the microphone. Sarah looked at the crowd. She saw the faces that had ignored her for years. She saw the waiters in the back who had watched her get fired. She didn't scream. She didn't gloat. "Thank you," she said, her voice clear and strong. "Not for the award, but for showing me that even in the rain, God is watching." The applause was deafening. It wasn't polite applause. It was the sound of a city realizing it had been wrong. 6 months later, the sun was setting over Lekki. In a quiet, well-secured estate, Sarah sat on her balcony. She was reading a textbook, Advanced Business Management. Her phone buzzed, a bank alert, salary payment from the Felix Foundation. She wasn't a waitress anymore. She was the director of charity operations. Her job was to find the invisible people of Lagos, the ones washing cars, the ones hawking in traffic, the ones sleeping under bridges, and give them a chance. Downstairs in the parking lot, a brand new Toyota Corolla gleamed. It wasn't a G-Wagon. It was better. It was hers. Paid for. Her phone rang. It was her mother. "Sarah, the doctor just left. He said my kidney function is normal. Normal, Sarah. It's a miracle." Sarah smiled, tears prickling her eyes. "I know, Mama. I know." Sarah opened Twitter. She rarely checked it, but today, curiosity won. Someone had posted a video of a woman fighting with a bus conductor in Oshodi over 50 naira change. The woman looked haggard, her hair unkempt, her designer bag fake and killing. It was Cynthia. The comments were brutal. "Is this not Queen C? How the mighty have fallen." Sarah didn't like the post. She didn't comment. She felt a brief moment of pity, then she blocked the account. That chapter was closed. Sarah put her phone down and looked at the Lagos skyline. She realized the truth of the city. It wasn't about the gold gates or the tinted windows. The elders say that the forest does not tell the tree which axe will cut it, just as the river does not tell the boat which storm will capsize it. But the most dangerous thing in the forest is not the axe,
It is the silence of the roots, watching the axe approach. Life is a revolving door. Be careful who you push on your way out, for you might need them to hold the door open when you are trying to come back in. Character is not what you do when the cameras are rolling. It is what you do when the world is mute. If this story touched something in your spirit today, don't let the conversation end here. Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a tale of justice and redemption. Share this with a friend, not just to entertain them, but to remind them that the tables can turn at any moment. Let's keep the discussion going in the comments. Have you ever helped a stranger who turned out to be an angel in disguise? I want to hear your story.